Welcome again to It Is Written Canada. Today we are on location in Lacombe, Alberta at Spider Controls, the workplace of Amber Andrews, who we introduced you to last week.
Amber found herself broken and living on the cold city streets after facing one traumatic experience after another. Yet she knew that God was always with her. Amber, thank you for joining us again this week on It Is Written Canada.
It's my pleasure.
Amber, last week you talked to us about how you ended up on the streets. What was it like?
It was rough. There was a lot of bad times. There was a lot of scary times. But the most interesting part is that God walked with me. That day that I prayed for Him to get me out of there, He was able to help me get my dogs to a safe place. And He put a lot of people in my path and helped me. And I learned a lot about myself, and I grew as a person.
So tell us about some of the experiences that were positive for you.
Well, I do remember we came across a lady, and she was very intoxicated, and she was missing one of her shoes. And so we decided, me and my friend that I was with, that we would make her a shoe out of what we had. So I had some boots on, so I took the inside insulation part of my boot, and he took the sole out of his shoe, and we duct taped her shoe together. And she could barely stand. And the guy looked at me and he said, "Do you know that this is what Jesus used to do?" And it just blew me away. You know, he just used to walk around helping people and sharing stories and sharing about God. And it really moved me. It also made me think about my mother and just how hard she fought and prayed for me. And, you know, this lady, we had a meal that she could have at the shelter. There were shoes there, and there was a warm bed, and we could not convince her to come with us.
And your mom was praying for you through the entire time that you went through your drug addictions, you were on the streets, and then you came to a place where you just wanted to get rid of everything.
I did. The house that I was living in that I wasn't allowed in, I was fighting very hard to get my stuff out of there. I wasn't legally allowed to go there. They had to correct the paperwork saying that I could go there if I had an officer. And then we had tried many times when there was nobody home or nobody would answer. And then finally one day I did get some stuff, and I brought it over to my boss Lily's house, and I had it in the driveway there, and I was so relieved that I had finally gotten my stuff. And her son came out of the house and he said, "Get this junk out of my driveway." And I was very offended because this was everything I owned. But it hit me right then, you know. I just started looking at everything, and I'd fought so hard for this stuff, and I didn't even have anywhere to keep it. And I just wanted to be free of it. And so I just started bringing everything out on the curb. And then I thought, well, I don't want to just give stuff away. I want it to go to the right place. And so I just knelt down and I prayed, where is this stuff supposed to go? Get it to the right person. My neighbor came across the street, asked if we were having a garage sale. I said, well, we are, but everything's free. I didn't want any money for it. It was not what that was about for me. So he took a really beautiful table, and the neighbors down the street took my leather furniture. And he said that he had a friend that worked in the women's shelter, and they were in need of furniture. And I said, well, call her up. And so he was able to take a bunch of stuff and get it to some ladies that were just starting out. So
Amber, you were getting rid of all your things, and then you found that there was something you didn't want to get rid of.
You're right, yeah, I'd kept a couple special items, my photo albums and whatnot. So I was sitting in this garage that I was living in and was looking through my stuff that I had saved. And I saved this one card from my mom. So my mom had sent me this card when I was on the street. I'd opened it, shook it out for money, took the money out, never read it. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna read this card. And it says, I know you're dealing with a lot right now, and I just want you to know that it's going to work out. To Amber, trust in the Lord with all your heart. I believe in you. I believe in miracles. We are praying for you, wishing you God's love and blessings. Love, Jesus and Mom and Dad. And I just cried.
That was pretty meaningful to you. God was speaking to you through that card that you had for a long time, and you had never read it. You just wanted the money out of it. Yeah. There were lots of things that happened that were kind of strange, and you were phoning your mom and telling her about these things.
Yeah, my mom said I would call about every 3 weeks, and I wasn't calling them miracles, but I knew some strange things were happening to me. And they were wonderful things that were helping me grow and change. And I was being shown Jesus on my walk. I do remember being very cold. When I first hit the street, I didn't have my clothes or anything, so I do remember needing a jacket, and the shelter had some jackets that were available. And I remember trying on this beautiful jacket. It looked like it was brand new. It was Calvin Klein, it was long, it was navy blue. And I put it on and it fit me perfectly. And I knew I was blessed. I also remember being hungry one day, and I remember being invited over for dinner and by Mary and Bill, and I really thought it was a pity invite, and I thought, you know, I don't want to interfere with their time together and their friends and stuff, and then I also had a young man and woman in front of me while I was walking, and they turned around and out of the blue asked me if I wanted this bottle of water and this granola bar. And you know, it wasn't a dirty opened bottle, it was perfect condition, and I said no thank you, you know, I don't take anything from strangers. And I laughed about it afterward because I'm like, here's God trying so hard to feed me, and I'm so mad at him because I'm saying I'm hungry. I'm not asking for gold or diamonds or anything. I just want food. So many times you're asking for things, you think it's going to look a certain way, and God's been trying to provide it to you all along. You just can't see it.
So this perspective that you had on things started to change you, like even when you went dumpster diving, it was, you know, you were looking at things differently than other people.
I was, yeah. There were many nights you couldn't get into the shelter. The shelter filled up very quickly, the wet and the dry shelters. And so we would spend our nights dumpster diving. And I had this really neat group of people that I hung out with. And I remember telling them when we first started dumpster diving together, that I just want us to clean up afterwards, because I said, you know, that's why people get so upset, is because, you know, people leave a mess. So they were so gracious. They never argued with me or anything, and they would put everything back. And I was always on people about not smoking and try not to swear. And it was very strange, but I had smoked for years and I had quit smoking. And when I was on the streets, I said, I don't want to start again because I don't want to have to quit again. And I already have one habit.
So, Amber, how did you end up working here at Spider Controls?
So, as I had said last week, Bill was a family friend who had taken me in off the streets and graciously gave me a camper to stay in. He had encouraged me to start going back to church. We had went to the Ponoka Church, which is a wonderful church. My first time walking in there, I was very nervous, and I remember walking through the doors and saying, wow, I'm so glad I didn't catch on fire or something. And these two lovely ladies came and asked me, they said, if you don't have someone to sit with, you can come sit with us. And I was very moved by that. And so I'd started going to church again. And I also started volunteering at the soup kitchen again, which is something that I liked to do before I had ended up on the streets. So I was at the soup kitchen in Red Deer, and I was doing up some dishes, and I was talking to a lady, and I said, you know, that I had needed work, that I was getting off the streets and I needed a job. And she says, well, I just happen to own an auction and need somebody that could help me out. So I started working with her.
I met Amber probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it was at church, I believe, that we were having potluck, and she had mentioned that she was looking for work. And so I said to her, well, as a matter of fact, we could use somebody at the auction. We need somebody in the kitchen. And so we hired her. We were doing we do meals at the auction, and yeah, she was great, and she was such a great help, and such a happy attitude, and yeah, we really enjoyed her. And you know what? She became part of our family. So life is always a challenge, but she was a blessing to us the whole time she helped us and worked for us. And I'm so happy that the Lord has restored her, and He is blessing her, because then she becomes a channel of blessing to other people. And you know, every time we walk through life, there's never a time in our life where the things that the Lord has let us go through can't always be a blessing to someone else. All of us have a story, and every story is different. And sometimes when we go into a challenge and we go into something that it seems like it's so hard, and what, Lord, why would you ever have me go through this? It's because down the road we need to be a blessing to someone else, because we've walked in their shoes.
So I had been working with her for a little bit, and she just didn't quite have the hours I needed for me to really get on my feet. And she ended up introducing me to Curtis. And Curtis had actually been out to my house that I was staying in, and he had volunteered with a group of people to do a little bit of work on my house, because it wasn't quite winter ready. There was no furnace, and the windows were broken out, and needed a lot of work. So he came out with his family and volunteered, and we had a really good meeting, and he offered me a job, and that was 4.5 years ago now.
So I remember the first time that our family was able to meet Amber. It was at a church work bee that had been called to help get Amber's house ready for winter. We'd been praying for Amber as a church family for many months. There was a friend of ours, Darlene, and she had lifted up Amber in prayer many times, and so we'd prayed for her. And finally we actually got to meet Amber. She was trying to make the best of the situation, and she had really tidied the place up as best she could, but I mean, there was walls that weren't insulated. There was a door that was just basically falling off, and we're going into winter. There was a small wood-burning stove in the house, and that was really all there was for heat. There was barely any plumbing, and the plumbing that there was would freeze in the winter. And so just really seeing that Amber was in a tough spot. And I can remember just something standing out in my mind, though, about how caring she was about others. You could sense it just in the way that she interacted with those of us that were there. I can remember then just her giving my wife a big hug as we left, and just really having a strong impression that Amber was really trying to do her best. And it was a couple weeks after, I can remember Linda Dunbrack, a friend of hers, and a church member had been in touch with me, and just we'd been talking about the situation, that Amber was going to be needing work. She'd been working for Linda, but that work was running out. And in our business, we had an opportunity for somebody that could do assembly technician type jobs. And so Amber joined our team, and it was such a blessing. Right from the start, when Amber joined, she caught on quickly and just brought a real fun element to our group, and really fit right in. It wasn't easy for Amber. I can remember there were times where her car would quit on the way to work. It was winter time. Things that she had done really to turn her life around, but yet there were these things that were going wrong in her life. What was so amazing, though, was that it wasn't that was Amber's focus. She was more concerned about others. There were other people she knew of in the community that needed, something, and she would bring that up to our staff as we'd have worship or as we'd have our outreach events, and she would bring up these needs for others. And I can remember just thinking, made such an impression on me, thinking, here's somebody who's in such a tough spot, but she's thinking of others more than she is of her own needs. And I could just see God working, just different things out in her life. One of the opportunities that I can remember Amber had was to go on a mission trip to the Philippines. It was amazing to see the joy that brought her. You could just see it in the pictures, and when she came back, she just told these stories of working with children, and she would tell others about the opportunities to serve and to support the needs that were in the Philippines, again, just thinking of others. And then as she continued working here, we actually started to formalize. We had kind of an outreach event every month as a staff. We choose an event, and we needed somebody that could lead that. And of course, Amber stepped in. And every month she would be just bringing people from the community in that had needs. If it was family community services, or there was a need at the nursing home, or just whatever it was, she would be bringing all these things in. And it's been a powerful testimony to me personally, just seeing that really, as I think about it, the life of Christ coming out through Amber, serving others. And that made such a powerful impression on me.
If God is almighty, then why is there so much pain and suffering?
Is God responsible for the pain in this world?
Where can we find peace?
Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first
Friends, we've been visiting with Amber Andrews, who certainly faced many dangers, toils, and snares, and yet, through God's amazing grace, she is living a stable, joyful, and daily growing experience in her walk with Jesus.
Amber, please tell us how God took all the broken pieces in your life and glued them together with His grace.
Well, He put many people in my path that helped me, and work was one of the most important things. So I worked roofing with Bill, and then I met Linda, the auctioneer, and she gave me work, and then finally introduced me to Curtis, and he was able to give me full-time. And I was also able to return to my old job, which is working with the two brothers that have autism with Lily. I wish I could remember all the people that played their part. It truly takes an entire church to save an addict, and everybody played their role, and I'm so blessed to have these people in my life, and family, the family that I had that never quit praying. I had no idea that Darlene had a whole church of people praying for me. The whole Ponoka church came, so when I walked through those doors, everybody was like, "That's the Amber we've been praying for."
God is a God of restoration. So it was quite interesting to see Amber go from being a volunteer at Soup Kitchen to be in need of the services at Soup Kitchen. And then the week that she came back, and she'd been off the streets for a while, and she wanted to volunteer again at Soup Kitchen. And she said it was so good to hear us pray and praise the Lord that she was on the other side of the counter. She had made a full circle. God had restored her relationship. It was just a beautiful thing.
God has been working in your life. There's always this difficulty of regrets when it comes to the healing process. What were some of those that you struggled with?
The two big ones is I missed two of my brother's weddings, and that's just not something I'll ever get back. So that'll always break my heart. I can no longer give blood as a donor, so that saddens me, because that was one thing that I did enjoy doing as well. And I broke people's hearts, and I stressed my parents out like crazy, and I really regret putting him through that. When it's hard when you're an addict, you can be so selfish sometimes you don't even realize the people you're hurting around you.
Do you have any advice for someone who may be struggling and going through some of the stuff that you were going through?
Absolutely. I always just had a feeling in the back of my mind that God wanted to save me. You know, He introduced my family to Seventh-day Adventist, and He was there with me every day on the streets, protecting me. And I never doubted that He wanted me, and He wanted to save my soul. And so now I, can be an example unto others that you're never too far gone. You'll never be hidden under some bridge so far away that He can't see you. So
God has taken you to so many more places, and I know that you really have a heart of service. Can you tell us about the different places where God has led you?
Absolutely, yeah. I've always wanted to help. Even, when I was on the streets and a lady would get her purse stolen, I remember going back and putting together a kit for her. And when I worked at the auction, Linda would have things that were not sellable, so I would take them home and sew them and try and get them back out on the streets. And I think that's, Curtis saw that I enjoyed helping people, and that's one reason he decided to support me as my sponsor for me to go to the Philippines. So I've been there twice now. And yeah, it was about a year after I'd gotten off the streets, and I was hiking up a mountain in the Philippines with medical supplies, and I just couldn't believe that God could use a wretch like me.
That's beautiful.
And God has been supporting you also to help other people in the community, like Bags of Love.
Absolutely, yeah. We do have potluck here once a month, and we share a meal together. We celebrate birthdays together, and Curtis always wants to know new ways that we can help the community for the month. So I jumped right on that, and I come up with ideas every month and encourage other people at my work, and we always find someone or some group to help.
So as we've come to the end of our time, I wonder if you could close with a word of prayer for us again, Amber.
Absolutely. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this time together, and may my story be a light to somebody out there. Never give up. God never gives up on us, and God can turn it around, and He can use you, and the Bible is filled with stories of Him using people for the good. So be one of those people. Start saying yes to God, and you'll be just amazed at what He can do with you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Amber, for sharing your story with us again.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you, Amber.
Friends, today Amber honestly opened her heart to us and revealed how Jesus transformed and is still transforming her life. Our free offer for you today is Outrageous Grace.
Outrageous Grace reveals how God is a parent, teacher, leader, and friend to each and every one of us. Most of all, He is a God of outrageous grace, a relentless pursuer and an unconditional forgiver, whose loving goal is to take His children home to heaven.
Before you go, we would also like to invite you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also listen to our podcasts. And if you go to our website, you can see our latest programs, including our cooking demonstrations, our short spiritual messages entitled Daily Living, and our exercise workouts called Experiencing Life.
Because we want you to experience the truth found in the words of Jesus when He said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God."